So this may be more information than you need or want, but briefs just chafe me. Now, before you recoil in horror and say, Eric, TMI, gross, let me explain. There are many things I like about music licensing. Money while I sleep. Make music once and it keeps making you money down the line. Royalties forever. Hearing and knowing my music is being used in TV and film around the world all the time. But there is one element of sync and music licensing that I am starting to detest. It really burns my bacon, you could say. And you may find this shocking from someone who has talked about music licensing from video number 1 on this channel. I kind of hate briefs. And this is really not a popular thing to say in this field of work. All the gurus will tell me to buck up, buddy. Do what the client wants. But you know what? I'm kind of tired of clients telling me what to do all the time. I'm kind of tired of clients telling me how to make music. They've done it now for decades. In a lot of ways, that is just the way music works, especially in the professional arena. You find some possibility to get your music used, or you write for a project, even though that brief, which is something that tells you what a TV show or a music supervisor or some music buyer is looking for, that brief is going to hundreds, if not thousands, of other composers and songwriters and producers. But you're saying there's a chance. So what to do? Well, as always, being a solutions-oriented YouTube channel, I have several answers. You just may not like them, but I like the options I have that have worked for me for years to circumvent the restricting nature of briefs. And no, I'm not necessarily talking about boxers. Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric Copeland, and I'll get back to the griping and moaning about briefs in a moment. But first, as always, on this channel, we give away stuff for free. I want you to have some free stuff and have something new for free for you today. I just added 2 new modules to the stock market course. Now, if you don't know about this course, this is a course that I talk about teaching you how to kind of get started in music licensing by putting your music into non-exclusive stock music and micro sync libraries and websites. I've just gone in and re-edited 2 videos that kind of some people saw, some people didn't. And I thought they were great for the stock market course and why you might want to even get into this kind of micro licensing in the first place. One is a video about telling you why I don't think that stock music or micro sync licensing is dead and why you might want to think about it. And the second one talks about what if you could just make some money with the music that you just have laying around on your hard drive or you've released on Spotify. So both those videos are now in the course. Just go to makemusicincome.com/stock market. It'll have a link right to the course and you can go and watch those for free and see if the course is right for you. That's makemusicincome.com/stock market. But wait, there's more. Since we are talking about sync licensing in this video and have been pretty much all this month, I should probably tell you that my ebook, Getting in Sync version 3, is now available, and you can get that at makemusicincome.com/gettinginsync. This is an ebook where I lay out, everybody wants to know, how did I get involved in sync? How do you get started? Where do I go? What do I do? Where are the libraries? Blah, blah, blah. This is the ebook that tells you how to do that. I'm also developing it into a course which will be available soon, and you'll get a discount if you buy the ebook beforehand. So it's only $14.99, and it's available to you to really just kind of get a sense of how I got started in sync. Even at an older age, with no background in music licensing, I just decided, hey, I'm going to start doing this. And this is the ebook that tells the whole story and shows you how I got involved and how I started producing music for it and how I got into sync and started getting paid. I'm all the way to the paid place. So get version 3 of the book, makemusicincome.com/gettinginsync. So speaking of the way I got in sync and how I started to make money in music licensing, which again, my ebook explains, let's talk about the usual rhetoric you hear on channels that talk about music licensing for film, for television, for advertising, for games. Let's talk about what people usually tell you that you're going to have to do to get your music into these things. You'll be part of some website, or maybe you're part of a library and you'll get an email and it'll say, urgent need. We need a solo jazz piano cue for a scene and we need it in 2 hours. No vocals, no instruments, just solo piano. These are the kind of unique, weird things that come in just on a daily basis. And it's usually this fast. It's crazy. What's funny is this very brief came to me as I was writing the script for this video. This very brief, a solo jazz piano cue type of brief, came into my email box as I'm sitting here writing, and I squirrel, and I said, you know what? I do have something for that. I have been working on a jazz song recently, and the piano part, I think I probably could take and manipulate it so that it would work for this cue. I'll get into my policy and my procedure for how I will respond, or if I respond to a brief, a little later in this video. But I decided to send something to this just because I had something really close at hand. So I went into a file that I was currently mixing, and I got the piano part soloed, edited it up a little bit, sent it in, and so we'll see what happens. You know what'll probably happen? Nothing. So yeah, I deal with briefs. I have a growing catalog of hundreds of songs. I have very specific genres I work in, so when I have something close, I usually send it. The same day, I saw 10 to 15 other briefs, and I had nothing for them at all, so I just ignored them. But I have problems with briefs. They chafe me. I'm not comfortable with briefs. They just are too restrictive. And I want to talk about a few of those things that I find restricting and chafing. And so here we go. Let's talk about some of the things I don't like about briefs. When you're with someplace like Taxi or even just a music library, and you get some kind of email that says, this music library or this company or this music supervisor or this person is looking for a certain song, and here are the parameters, and they need it right now. Here's what they need. My biggest problem with this is it feels like you're getting an inside this inside scoop. Ooh, I have a brief. I'm getting the inside skinny on what they need. And so I'm one of the few people in the world that's going to have a chance at this brief. Mwahaha. My odds of getting it should be pretty good. The reality is, and I hate that phrase, by the way, this brief could be going to hundreds, if not thousands, of professional, semi-professional, amateur, but not even people who make music. It could be going to just a cast of thousands, and you are just one of them. I think you are just part of some super wide net that has hundreds or thousands of people, and then filtered through hundreds maybe of gatekeepers who then further filter it down to one poor person who has to sit there and listen to the best of the best and try to figure out which one to use. It's like finding a needle in a needle stack, and then they may find the song they need. Or they may not find the song they need. It may be all for nothing. The director may end up saying, guess what, I don't need a song here. Or we're going to pay for the original song that we were going to put in there. Or who knows what could happen. It could all be for naught. So I think we make a bit of a mistake when we think, ooh, I'm getting the briefs. This is my ticket in. Because I'm not sure it is. The second thing is briefs are too tight. You ever have that problem? Could be the tea. Again, you may be thrilled to work night and day to develop a track that might work for somebody, and I know lots of people who do this. But to me, that is just a lot of work. In my experience, and I have hundreds of songs that are being used by libraries and that are getting on television and film, and so I have some experience of this. I'm not like somebody new. I'm relatively new to the space. I've only been in it about 4 or 5 years, but I have been working for clients for 2 decades, getting them what they want, working for personal briefs. And this is a lot different because these are clients who are saying, here's a deposit, you're the only one working on this, and we'll pay you the rest when it's done. But no, this is a possible client, and they want you to work for free, and your library or whoever is coming to you with this brief is wanting you to develop something for free for something that possibly might please one person at some point down the line who might end up changing their mind and wanting something completely different. And this drives me crazy. I will start work down a brief, and halfway down the road, the brief will change and it will say, oh no, it's going that way, but now we want it more hip-hoppy. And you should know from me just saying hip-hoppy that I'm not going to make a hip-hop cue. Oh yeah, and they need it in 2 hours. 2 hours? By the time I even see the email on most briefs, I've missed it because I was actually at work on something that's going to pay me. And most times in my experience, if not every single time, when I've responded to a brief, it's just been work for nothing when I could have been doing work that was paying me. Now, I've negotiated with myself and said, sure, it's no money now, but even if they don't choose it, I can put it into my catalog and maybe get some use out of it later. But it's no money for my valuable time. And there are some days when it would have been better for me to spend that time on something that's actually making me money that day or that week than messing around developing something that either no one will hear or either will just be another in 1,000 songs that is going through this tiny filter to maybe get used in something. Again, if it was a sure thing for a client, which is what I'm usually working on, then it's a no-brainer. Most of my clients pay me monthly. So anything I create for them, even if I'm not sure if they're going to like it or not, is already paying me. But briefs are really just like ifs. Really, if you just take out a few letters, briefs are ifs. And I just can't live with ifs, especially when they want it in 2 hours. Here's another argument that kind of bothers me when we're talking about briefs and working for licensing, is the whole conversation about artisans versus artists. We have to be artisans. That means you make things that are beautiful, that are artistic, but can also be used for another purpose. Okay, I get it. As a matter of fact, I think everything that you create could be used for some purpose. I get things used every day on all kinds of levels that I developed 20 years ago for a piano album or for a jazz album or for some other obscure use. And it just gets used. Things I never expected were going to get used. And I created those because I was just wanting to do them because that's what I wanted to make that day. I was being an artist, and I guess I've always felt like it's the same thing. If you're an artist and you create a piece of work, then any piece of work, almost any piece of work, can be used at any time for something usable. So like I say, I get the artisan thing. I also got it when clients hired me to do jingles. I did it. They didn't know music. They didn't even know what they wanted sometimes. But at least they were paying me that day to be an artisan. Just don't know if I think there's that much different between being an artist and making the thing you love and being an artisan and making something just to get paid, possibly. I think you can be both. And guess what? I've never had to do that in licensing. In fact, most, if not all, of the money that I have made in music licensing had nothing to do with briefs. I'm trying to think of a time where the brief actually made me money down the line. Maybe none of my success is due to briefs. Now, I know what you are hearing from everyone else. Follow the bleeping brief. You got to do what the client wants. But actually, you don't have to. These days, I see the same brief on this side and on this side, and I have heard from sync agents that they see these same briefs every day. But sync agents are different because most of the time, they are getting the call when the brief has failed. The brief has failed to cast a wide net and bring in the song that they want. So the music supervisor, the music buyer, comes to the sync agent and says, listen, I've exhausted all possibilities. We've heard from 1,000 people, and it's not what we want. That's when these sync agents go to their artists and their producers, and they say, I need this, and I know you have it. And so they already have this working relationship. And more importantly, they still might have a restrictive timeline, but they have something else that just doing a brief doesn't have. Money. Yes, it may only be a little bit of money. It may only be $1,000 or $2,000, but it will be money. And with sync agents, you're not tied to a deal that's going to take your publishing or maybe even some of your writers and then split the sync. You're not dealing with any of that. You might have 1% that goes to the sync agent, and then everything else is yours. I've got 2 really great sync agent videos that we just had on the show recently. Look down below for the links to those. Another route for the music buyer is a music library. This is how I have had all my success so far in music licensing. And the beauty of this is that none of that music that I have provided to the libraries has been the result of any kind of brief. Now, they might have said, I need an album of country songs, or I might have suggested a certain kind of album, a dramedy album, and they may have said, ooh, that sounds great. Go ahead and do that. So I may have thought of an idea for a song or a collection of songs and produced exactly what I wanted to do in my own time with exactly who I needed to make and produce the music, made an artistic song, not an artesian song, something that I knew was beyond reproach musically and production-wise. And that is how I have made most of my income in music licensing. That's how I've had a ball writing exactly what I want and then finding a way to get paid for it. Ah, but you say you kind of wrote for a brief because they wanted a country album or they wanted this. Well, you can get into semantics if you want to, but I'm not following a 2-paragraph thing that says it has to sound like this, has to be this long, and it has to be here in 2 hours, and it has to sound just like this reference. I'm not doing any of that. I'm creating from here. I'm creating from here. I made what I wanted to make when I wanted to make it. Not because some desperate email was sent to thousands of people with some possibly fake deadline for some possible use that may not even be a use, or they may decide they don't need it. I made art. Sorry, I did. It may be a song I wrote in high school, or it may be a song I wrote in my 20s. It might be an idea I just had in the hot tub a few months ago, but I got to produce it for my catalog and put it into another catalog and or have it available when a use comes along. And I had a song, not a cue, in my head. A beautiful, well-produced piece of music that I fully intend to distribute to Spotify and to YouTube and to all of the places. And I did this very thing this week. I have a classical album I produced that originally was going to be for a library. I produced it before I was going to produce it for the library. I just later on told them about it, and they said, yeah. And then they never really got on it, so I just took it back and really decided to get it done and put it out myself with all my other non-exclusive material. 25 songs, that's going out to distribution this week. So is a 4-movement classical piece that I did for my master's degree. Both are going out this week, and I would imagine and bet you that sometime down the road, those will be used in some kind of production. So how do I respond to briefs now? Well, it's like I said earlier, and like I did earlier, I saw something that I had. I knew I had it. It was already produced and produced well. I wasn't going to have to do any extra music making. All I had to do was a quick edit, and as I tell my wife, Bob's your uncle. And to be honest, Bob actually is her uncle. No feeling like I could make something like that reference, that I could do that brief. I have time today. I could while away a few hours working on something and maybe get that in. Or I have FOMO and feel like I'm going to miss out if I don't drop everything and make something for this brief that is come right to me. It's precious. I have to pay attention to that brief. Folks, briefs are fast and furious, and they are plentiful. There will be more. They will always keep coming if you have a way to get briefs. And if you don't have a way to get briefs, you can go to Taxi or TuneEdge or many places and respond to briefs and play that game if you want to. You certainly can. So I might have preferred tighty-whities when I was a kid, which I did, and maybe you still do. But I'm a grown-up man, and I like to think I'm a grown musician who might even be in the prime part of my composing and producing career. I want to make the music that my heart and my soul and God put in me to make. That could be cool arrangements of public domain songs. It could be contemporary pop or rock or country. It could be R&B, it could be jazz, it could be classical, patriotic, holiday, whatever I dang well please, if you'll pardon the language. And you can too, if you like. Release yourself from those restrictive briefs. And also, if you feel like that briefs give you structure and support, and it's good practice and your best bet for success, well, I'm not going to be mad at you. But as for me, The classic boxer is probably more my taste these days, or maybe boxer briefs. Thanks for watching, and also take a look at these videos which kind of give you a new way to think about music licensing.